Hey there, gaming enthusiasts! Welcome back to the HowFixIT channel. Today, I have an exciting topic for all PS5 Slim owners. We're diving into the complete guide on how to upgrade the M2 SSD in the PlayStation 5 Slim. To successfully update your game console, all you need is a Phillips 1 screwdriver and a compatible M2 drive. But before we dive into the installation process, let's look at the M2 SSD requirements. First, let's talk about the M2 form factor. There are 5 subtypes. The first 2 digits indicate the width, and the second 2 indicate the length. Each of the 5 subtypes is compatible, but the most common form factor for PS5 is 2280. Second, there are 2 types of M2 SSDs, SATA and NVMe, with corresponding socket type M plus B keys or a single M key. It's crucial to note that the PlayStation 5 Slim supports only M2 PCI Express NVMe 4th generation with the M key. The M2 SATA drive is technically not compatible with the PS5 console. Third, speed matters. Your M2 SSD should have a sequential read speed of 5,500 megabytes per second or faster. Storage space. The PS5 Slim supports storage capacities ranging from 250 gigabytes to a whopping 8 terabytes. And last but very important is the heatsink. The PS5 requires an M2 SSD with a cooling heatsink. You have 2 options: attach a heatsink yourself in a single-sided or double-sided format, or purchase an M2 SSD with a pre-installed heatsink. If your M2 drive meets PS5 requirements but lacks additional cooling, you can install a heatsink yourself. Just make sure it fits into the shallow slot that Sony has provided for internal expansion. The width of the overall structure, including the additional heatsink, cannot exceed 25 millimeters. The total height of an M2 drive with a heatsink should not exceed 11.25 millimeters. The size under the board must be less than 2.45 millimeters. The overall dimension above the board must be less than 8 millimeters. Otherwise, the structure will not fit into the console housing. Given these complex size requirements that need to be met, I recommend purchasing an M2 SSD with a pre-installed heatsink. Therefore, I chose the Corsair M2 SSD. It meets the technical requirements and has a low-profile aluminum heatsink designed for the PS5 console housing. I've included a link to this M2 drive in the video description below. Now, let's move on to the step-by-step installation process. The first step is crucial. Power off your PS5 completely and unplug all cables. Safety is key when working with electronics. Lay your game console on its side with the right side covers facing up. The upper cover is secured with clips. Grasp with your fingers and pull up the front edge to release the clips. Grab your Phillips screwdriver and remove the screw securing the expansion slot cover. This opens up the pathway for our SSD upgrade. Now remove the screw securing the spacer. This is the last step before we get hands-on with the M2 SSD. The expansion slot has multiple indents for compatibility with different sized SSDs. Set the spacer to the proper indent based on the size of your M2 SSD. Gently install SSD into its M2 socket. It should fit snugly, but don't force it. Align the cutout on top of the spacer and tighten the screw. Remember, don't over-tighten. We want a snug fit without risking any damage. Now that your M2 SSD is securely in place, attach the expansion slot cover and fasten the screw. Close your PS5, plug it back in, and power it on. You're almost there. After powering on, the formatting guide appears. Using the PS5 controller, select Format M2 SSD and press the X button. Don't turn off the power while your SSD is being formatted. The system will also check your disk speed. If the read speed exceeds 5,500 megabytes per second, you're good to go. Now that the M2 SSD is formatted, the system prompts you to change the installation location of your games. Navigate to the Settings menu on your PS5 and check if the system recognizes the new M2 SSD. And there you have it, folks. You've successfully upgraded your PlayStation 5 Slim. You were on HowFixIT, thanks for watching, and happy gaming.